Now, in this special edition of Triad Today with our guest, the Honorable Pat McCrory, the Governor of North Carolina. In the news, maybe it's been put away in the back burner of the news because of other social issues that have been going on, but this bond proposal, and there are actually two bonds, I want you to talk about what they are, what they entail, how many bonds are there, what's the money amount that we're talking about, and why we need it.
Well, first of all, I'm a firm believer that we have to invest in the next generation, very similar to what Eisenhower did. I'm a big Dwight David Eisenhower fan, a great Republican president that we don't talk about enough as president. He was a two-term president, and he built the interstate highway system. And we now feel the impact 3 or 4 generations later because of Dwight David Eisenhower. I believe I have the same responsibility as governor, is to prepare our roads and our universities and our community colleges and our parks, state parks, including right here at Pilot Mountain. We need to prepare this for the future. We're the 9th most populous state in the United States of America. And we haven't had a bond referendum in 15 years. And during that 15 years, we became the 9th most populous state. I don't think most people realize we're this big. So are we going to prepare for growth, or are we going to react to growth? And the first part of the bond is about a $1.2 to $1.3 billion bond for transportation. And that would, for example, build and finish the 74 here at Winston-Salem, which is desperately needed. If we do not do that bond, 74 won't be built for another decade.
Oh, Lord.
I mean, and the money's at the lowest interest rate that we'll ever see in our lifetime. And we have a way to pay it back with no tax increase. In fact, within the next 3 years, our bond capacity, our bond debt will be less than it is today, even with $2.8 billion of bonds.
And it also, you mentioned universities. I was talking to our friend, Dr. Elwood Robinson, Chancellor at Winston-Salem State University. It could mean a big boost for them too.
Absolutely. They need a new science building, or addition to their science building. And if you notice in my list for universities, it's not for student centers, for football stadiums, or basketball arenas. I'm sorry, we got enough of those, with all due respect.
Yeah.
We need them for science labs, engineering labs, and those types of disciplines in which there's a skills gap in North Carolina. I was up at Western Carolina University and saw their science lab. It was an embarrassment. It was 1950s science lab. And we're supposed to have students learning in 20th century science labs. It was almost dangerous.
Yeah, you know.
Same thing with UNC Charlotte Science Lab. So there's a strategy in everything that I'm attempting to do as governor. With roads, I'm trying to connect commerce. With universities, I'm trying to connect the money we spend at universities to the jobs we need. So that's why we call it NC Connects.
What's the rationale on the part of the opponents of this in the General Assembly? I mean, it not only sounds good, it is good, it's the right time to do it. You talked about the economics of it. What's their problem?
I've got some people who don't believe in borrowing money, which is foolish because I couldn't have bought a house if I didn't borrow money. I have no problem with people borrowing money as long as they know how they're paying it back and they get something in return. I paid off a $2.8 billion debt for unemployment insurance that we owed the federal government because we got nothing in return for it. It was like a credit card debt. To me, there's credit card debt and there's mortgage debt. Any company and any government has to borrow money to build infrastructure for the future, but I've got some people who are against that. I've got some people who, well, wait a minute, I didn't get anything in my county, or I didn't get a new road in my county. You know, it's all about them. Or I didn't get, there's not enough money for the universities, too much for the community colleges, or the community college says there's too much for the university. So you get in these little pockets of resistance that collate to go, let's just not do anything. Doing nothing would be the worst thing for North Carolina.
Well, yeah, but shouldn't it be up to the voters to get a whack at this thing?
Yes.
And say, I want to, the governor says it's a good idea, I want to see what he says, I want to be able to vote on it.
Yes, there's those in the Senate, North Carolina Senate right now, do not want to put it on the ballot.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. The General Assembly also voted to, or they're trying to get this structure change of Greensboro City Council, which again is another kind of absurd thing. You're a former 7-term mayor of Charlotte. You were on this program as mayor and afterwards. Very successful mayor. And one of the tenets of this bill is to strip the mayor of powers. Here's my question. Mayor or not, from your perspective and now as governor, should state lawmakers be meddling in this kind of thing?
No. I don't want President Obama to meddle in my business, and the governor and state legislature shouldn't meddle in Greensboro, Winston-Salem city business. If they want to do that, go run for mayor. Go run for city council. You were elected to be a senator or a House member. Do your job. There's enough on our plate right now.
Yeah.
And even if I disagree with what maybe the mayor of Greensboro, Winston, or High Point might be doing, it's not my job. I got enough to do as governor right now. And I believe, as a conservative, I believe in local control. That's one of the conservative bedrocks of conservatism is pass it down closest to the people. That's what Ronald Reagan firmly believed in. But for whatever reason, when some people get power in one area, they want to keep the power they might have had from where they lived. And so both parties are kind of hypocritical, and I'm very disappointed in my Republicans who want to do that.
We have about a minute left in this before this break. You recently decided to ease up on the voter ID rules, and how is that going to work now?
It's going to work better. It's an improvement on the bill. And again, I'm an advocate of voter ID. People say, well, there's no problem. If you don't look for problems, you don't find it. If you don't think there's no voter problems in a state of 9.6 million people, it happened in Chicago, it's happened in West Virginia in our lifetime. If you just think North Carolina is exempt when you have tens of millions of dollars in these campaigns now, I mean tens of millions of dollars being spent, believe me, we need to do everything we can to protect the integrity of our ballot box. But in case someone doesn't have an idea, there is now a remedy where someone can sign a kind of an affidavit type thing and say, I couldn't get it at such and such a location. It'd be treated as a provincial ballot. I think they do this in another state, and they had like 100 or something people do this. So that's fine with me.
People at home couldn't see this, but when he said we got to get rid of the frauds, he was looking right at me, and I didn't appreciate that look.
Well, I was hoping you'd catch that hint.
Fraudulent as I am. We're going to take a quick break, come back. We're going to talk about some of the things that you've done already in your first term and more after this.